Hyattsville, Maryland. And I'm also the president for the Washington, D.C. chapter of National Action Network. When Trayvon Martin was gunned down, he lay in a morgue, unidentified, as a John Doe. His parents didn't know that he was slain. And then they found him and found his body and identified it, and then they turned to the legal system for help. Because what happened to their son without explanation didn't make sense. And contrary to the jury nullification attempts you heard in the closing arguments of the defense by a brilliant but deceptive person, we all function primarily with common sense. Because when I'm about to cross the street, I don't look at law books to decide whether or not I should cross in front of a speeding car. When my grandmama is cooking, she doesn't look at a book on culinary science to decide how much salt to put. We function primarily by our God-given common sense. And so if my child is gunned down in the street and the police offer me no explanations but to tell me that no one was arrested, no one was charged, then that doesn't make sense, and the Martin family pursued legal help. But in those early days, even the law, the system that was set up to protect and defend our citizens, let them down. So their lawyer, who couldn't get any help, turned to Reverend Al Sharpton. And we would not be here today. There would be no rallies and marches today. There would be no speech from the president like we heard yesterday, except for Reverend Al Sharpton. There are many people who have questions about our president's leadership and integrity, but I trusted him primarily because he was a black man. And the reason I trusted him because he was a black man is because I am a black man. And I trusted the me in him. Barack Obama didn't have to prove himself to me. I trusted him simply because I trust myself. And the establishment in many places do not even want to give us the right to trust ourselves. So our black leaders have to prove themselves to us. But yesterday you saw an example of superlative leadership. And I believe that our president would have made the same speech even if he was running for re-election. Because it takes character to say the things that he said. It's the first time in our country that we heard from the leader of the free world an entirely black perspective. And so Reverend Sharpton is responsible for all the chain of events that happened. He is the one who organized with other community leaders to get protests that brought Zimmerman to an arrest. Now I want to say that we are not angry today. I am not angry. I am disappointed that one of our babies, a baby that looks like me, that could have been my son, and my wife and I have 3 biological sons, I am disappointed in the verdict.
Yes.
It's injustice. even if the verdict is brought by a jury. Now, I respect the jury's right. I respect the jury's right to bring whatever verdict they bring. That's their right. And in saying that, I support the justice system that we have in America. I support the rule of law. So I respect the jury's right to bring a verdict. But I disagree with every cell in my body with that verdict. Now, because we live in a system that respects the rule of law and establishes it, there is a presumption that citizens of this country must be protected by the government. The government wasn't only established to collect taxes, but there is a presumption of protection for each citizen of the United States of America from its government. That's why we have a military. The military is not designed just to spend money and to buy weapons, but the military is designed to protect us. Not only from foreign intruders, but from all harm and danger. And so when the system failed to be just to Trayvon Martin, our government failed us. And we are here today, again, not because we're angry, but to bring attention. We're asking the Department of Justice to continue to look at this case and to follow the evidence and bring civil rights violation charges against George Roman. This is not a call. This is not a call to Eric Holder. Even if Eric Holder was not our Attorney General, we still are asking the Department of Justice, the Department of Government responsible for executing and upholding justice in the streets, to take an action. But Reverend Al Sharpton wants us to focus on a wider picture. There is injustice in immigration laws. There is injustice against women's rights. And there are so many forms of injustice. We're here today to bring attention to all forms of injustice. Not only against not only against the Department of Justice in our judicial branch, but also to the executive branch. We're asking the executive branch to see that justice is done in this case. We're asking, we're not here to force, we're not marching on the White House or planning any rebellion or any kind of anarchy. We're asking, as citizens, we have the right to ask. And this rally today is organized to ask for justice from every branch of government. The judicial, the legislative, and the executive. Yesterday the president raised a hypothetical. And those of us in academia often offer our students hypotheticals. But even people with common sense can reason out a hypothetical correctly. For example, if I asked you if I should chop off your right leg or your left leg, what would you say? All right. So that's a hypothetical. Common sense can guide people in a hypothetical. And so the president asked the provocative question yesterday, a Socratic question. What if Trayvon Martin was old enough and armed, and he saw someone following him in a car? Would he have been able to stand his ground and shoot that follower? Would he, had he done that, been able to go home to his own bed, driven home by a federal marshal? have gone for all those days without any intervention? No! Would there have need to be protests to get him arrested? No! Well, that's what we're talking about. That's why we're here today. To say that that system of imbalance is injustice and it must end, and we're asking all branches of government to investigate and pursue it. I want to close by saying that many speakers will deal with various aspects of this immoral incident. Many speakers will deal with various aspects. I want to deal with one aspect as I close. Why does a young black man who went to a 7-Eleven, didn't rob the 7-Eleven, purchased from the 7-Eleven, had extra money in his pocket, the 7-Eleven attendant didn't call the police to say that there was a threatening, suspicious guy who looks like he's on drugs in the 7-Eleven? Why did that happen? Because Trayvon Martin was a threat to no one. He was a decent, well-trained, disciplined young man. And you can tell that from the behavior of his parents. Again, a common sense deduction. So I ask you today, why did anyone have to call the cops to tell them that there is a person walking home? Why would anyone call the cops? Are a young man allowed to walk home? Why would anyone call the cops? Why is there a discussion going on between someone and the 911 or non-emergency operator about my son walking home? Why is that happening? It's happening because the spirit of hatred, the spirit of anger. We are not the angry ones. You know, if you go to the West Bank of the Jordan, you won't find Jews and Arabs living together. But here in America, the oppressed live with their oppressors in peace. You don't have any community where Germans and Jews live together. But here in America, the oppressed and the oppressors live together in peace. And our oppressors are trying to make us the angry ones when they're the ones killing us. So I say to you, our babies need to be able to walk home without anyone calling the cops on them. Now, I was surprised that the 911 operator or the non-emergency operator didn't ask, what is he doing? You're calling me to tell me he looks suspicious? You're calling me to tell me that he's probably on drugs? Well, tell me, what is he doing? That question was never asked. And so a man blinded by anger and the desire for vengeance, armed with a gun, followed that young man and shot him down in cold blood. And the reason we know that is because his account of the story doesn't make sense. It's the first time that I've seen in America a liar. The prosecution proved that this defendant was a liar. He was inconsistent on so many counts. How could a liar and someone who's inconsistent in his report still be given a judgment of his account of self-defense? The claim of self-defense is falsified by his lack of credibility. He's a liar and therefore cannot make any viable or legitimate claim of self-defense. Yet he's given a judgment in his favor. The other speakers and coming after me is the distinguished
this is cool.